Alright, Shalom Malakia. First and foremost, I give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem HaKadash, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahushai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahushai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutation all the Akim that is doing the work in sincerity and charity with humiliation all across the four winds. To the sincere Aquathium out there doing their due diligence in the servitude of their households, to you I salute. This is the brother Yahshua from the GMS Bahamas Camp. Back at you with a quick lesson. And the lesson what I want to touch on is speaking in tongues. Because I was having a dialogue with my co-worker the other day. And, we saw a lady walking by and he pointed out, that woman always have the spirit in church. She's be speaking in tongues. And he said, speaking in tongues? I said, but what you mean? She's been doing that whole bunch of that. He said, yeah, but she's doing that so good. I said, but I asked her, I said, but anybody can understand her? Say the Lord is speaking to you. I said, but that's foolishness what they talking, right? And he asked me what I meant. So I went on to explain to him, tongues goes into the word language. It simply means language, right? And he asked me what I meant by it. So I told him, I do a video for it, because there may be other people out there, listeners out there, who might not know what it means to speak in tongues. You see? And we bring this out every week. Every week, the brothers, we always bring out tongues simply mean language, right? And when you go into the Strong's definition or the Greek definition for the word tongues, it goes back to the word glossa. And glossa kind of sounds like the word glossary, right? That's actually where you get the word glossary from. And the word glossary, it means an alphabetical list of words relating to a specific subject, text, or dialect with explanation, right? And when you think about what these Christians be talking inside these churches, they can't explain to you what it is that they're saying. If you play a recording if somebody record them today and you play that recording for them like a month after that, and you ask them, hey, what this meant when you said this, they would not be able to tell you. Because why? The things that are coming out of their mouth is foolishness, is rubbish, right? If there's no text specific to what you speak in, or no explanation of translation, that's basically a non-speech. That's an unknown tongue what you're speaking in. And when these people in these Christian churches get on the pulpit talking about Hayabo Shata, which they had a Honda and all this foolishness, again, ask them to translate it and see what they say. Or ask somebody in the crowd or in the congregation to translate it. And 10 out of 10 times they ain't able to. You see? They can say some madness, that like that's what the Lord told them. The Lord told them that, the Lord gave them that message. Right? That's bullshit. The Most High is not the author of confusion. You see? Especially, for a woman inside that church who doing that shit with her head uncovered. You already getting off, because the scriptures tell the woman to keep silence in the churches. Furthermore, if they are speaking something or praying, their head ought to be covered. So that's two double negatives what you're doing. You're speaking inside the church and you're praying or prophesying with your head uncovered. And then you're lying on the Lord too. You see? 1 Corinthians 14:33 says, for Yahweh is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. You see, when the Most High speaks, he speaks through his prophets, which are men. You see, these women in these churches, they would order. They want to be everything. They want to be every role but the role that they are allotted to play, the role that they were instructed to play. You see, and when you think about it, when you think about the scripture, when you go into the scriptures, right? I think it's 4 accounts when the Most High spake to women directly, right? I find that interesting. Yeah, 4 accounts when Moses spake to women directly. And that was when he spoke to Eve, because she disobeyed him by disobeying her husband, right? It was to Sarah, because Sarah lied to him. It was to Hagar, but she was prideful. She was filled with pride. And then you had Rebecca, who basically guided Jacob to supplant Esau. You see, and when you think about it, right? Every time the Mosai spake to women directly, it had to do with something dealing with childbearing. It really only had to do with something with childbearing. You see, so where these so-called prophetess or pastoress get the gall to say they prophesying or speaking in tongues, when they were barely given instructions to speak on the whole. You see? And we live inside a society right now whereas that's the go-to thing. That's the holy thing that they do now. When they do that without understanding. Right? Nonetheless, if I was to say to one of the Akim, Shalom, right? Any one of the brothers through the four corners of the earth could tell you what that means. Right? Peace. If I was to tell one of the Akim, Shammai, right? Shammai Yasharallah Yahweh Alhayanawa Yahweh Akad. That's speaking in tongues. Any one of the Akim through the four corners of the earth could translate that. Hear, O Israel, our Lord, our power is one Lord. Right? Brothers could translate that. And that's the Hebrew tongue. You see, if I was to say Abanawa Shabbat Shamayam, right? You could go and read up in the ancient Hebrew and find the translation for that, Our Father which art in heaven. Right? The Lord spake Hebrew. So that means if the Lord spake Hebrew, his son spake Hebrew. Right? When he was going through his temptations, the angels ministered to him in Hebrew. Well, you know what? Let's prove that the Lord speak Hebrew. Right? The precept we want to get for that. Let's get Acts chapter 26. And we can read verse 14. It says here, this Paul describing his conversation with Yahushai. I can start at verse 14. And when we were all fallen to the earth, I heard a voice speaking unto me, as saying in the Hebrew tongue. Now this the red letter, this Yahushua speaking. And bear in mind, Paul said he heard it in the Hebrew tongue. Saul, Saul, why persecuted thou me? It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. You see, proving that the Most High speak Hebrew, right? The angels also spoke Hebrew. And we could prove that in the book of Matthew, right? Let's get Matthew chapter 4 and 11, right? Matthew 4 and 11. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him, right? Now let's start at verse 10. It says, Then said Yahushua unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship Yahweh thy power, and him only shalt thou serve. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. You see, and when it says those angels ministered unto him, they came to bring him provisions to uplift his spirit. You see, to speak to him, to tell him the good works of the Lord. And that was done in Hebrew. Right? Where we proven that tongues just means language. Right? When we look at 1 Corinthians 14 and 26, right? Let's get that. Because these Christians know church. We know the scriptures. Right? I can read 1 Corinthians 14 and 26. I can go down to 32 and start 26. It says, How is it then, brethren, when ye come together, every one of you hath a psalm, hath a doctrine, hath a tongue, hath a revelation, hath an interpretation, and all things be done unto edifying. This is a cut to those unity camps. You see? Because if different doctrines are being taught, right, no edification will be had. Remember tongues, right? Glossary, which says specific subject. So if we teaching different doctrines, we speak in different tongues. If we speak in different doctrines, we ain't no edifying going on. That's a cut to those unity camps. Because remember, when you go back to that word glossa, it says an alphabetical list of words relating to a specific subject, text, or dialect with explanation. So if we explain in two different things, ain't no edifying going on. You see? Remember, so if what they are teaching is different than what we teach, remember the scripture says, can two walk together lest they be agreed? Their tongue is different than ours. Their speech, their doctrine is different than ours. You see, that's the difference in tongues when it relates to doctrine, right? But that Christian foolishness, again, that hobo shanda and all that other rubbish is rubbish. That's what it is, rubbish. No one is able to translate it. Not even the speaker. The person who's saying it can't even tell you what it means. You see, that Christianity doctrine is rubbish. You see, they convinced of their own vain imagination, and thus they spew venom to the congregation and calling it holy water. You know, they speak shit to the people and call it chocolate. You know, they throw lead and call it gold. They throw coal and call it diamonds. You see, all they doing is spewing venom to the congregation, calling it speaking in tongues. That's the Holy Spirit. No, that's a demon you got on you. Verse 27. If any man speak in an unknown tongue, let it be by two, or at the most by three, and that by cause, and let one interpret. Now when it says there in an unknown tongue, let it be by the most by two or three. That when you go into the different translation, that means, you know, and give you an example. So if we have, let's say, three brothers, right? Let's say one speaks English and French, right? One speaks Spanish and French, and the last one speaks Spanish and English, right? They would each speak one at a time in order to translate. So what I'm saying is, if the brother who speaks English and French, let's say he speaks in French, right? The brother who speaks Spanish and French will be able to understand it. And the one who speaks Spanish and French will be able to translate it into Spanish, so the brother who speaks Spanish and English can translate it from Spanish to English. You see? Or the brother who speaks, because the one who speaks Spanish and French can't speak English. So if the brother who speaks English and French says it in English, right, that brother who speaks Spanish and French can't understand it. So the one who speaks Spanish and English can then interpret it into Spanish, so that the brother who doesn't speak any English at all can understand it in Spanish. But that has to be done one at a time, because if all of them speak at one time, no edification will be going on. You see? They would each speak one at a time in order to translate. Now, let's say if a fourth brother speaks German and English, right? He would have to hold his German tongue, because he is the only one that speaks that language. There is no one there to translate it. You see? Because he could speak the word in English, you know, or Hebrew, because just about all of you understand some resemblance of Hebrew. But if he says it in German, if he only speaks English and German and nobody there speaks German, he would have to hold that German tongue, because nobody's there to translate it. You see? So again, with these Christians, there's no one to translate what they saying with a hobo shanda. So they really ought to just shut up. Nobody could translate what the hell it is y'all saying. Y'all don't even know what it is y'all saying, so why the frig you saying it? Why are you saying it? There's no translation to it. 1 Corinthians 14 and 28. But if there be no interpreter, let him keep silence in the church, and let him speak to himself unto Yahweh. You see? So the higher bullshata and all that stupidness, speak that to the Lord and see what you get then. See what that get you. You see? Keep that shit to yourself. Keep that so-called speaking in tongues to yourself, because it ain't edifying nobody. You convinced of your own vain opinion, your own vain imagination, that you get some sort of message, when all it is just your heart speaking perverse, vain things. You see? Verse 29 says, let the prophet speak 2 or 3, and let the other judge. Right? When we out here speaking the words of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, the viewers who oftentimes are elders, and those who just tune in, they watching, you see, and they judging our message to see if it be true and good. You see, again, let the prophet speak 2 or 3, and let the other judge. So that's how come when you see brothers bringing out lessons, we bring them out one at a time. You see, because as one speaks, the rest listen and judge to see if his word is good, if his word is seasoned with salt, like our camp leader went into on yesterday. You see, if your tongues be seasoned with salt, that the judge to see if your tongue be seasoned with salt or unsavory. You see, if we speak as the oracles of the Most High or as vain men, because in these hallowed houses, if you stand and tell the pastor he talking shit, you would get thrown out. Them ushers will lift you up and gas you out that church if you stand up and tell the pastor but he talking foolishness. Because whatever vomit he speaking holds ground in that wicked tabernacle. That's his domains. So whatever vomit he spewing to them people, they have to sit there and take it or walk out. Verse 30 says, if anything be revealed to another that sitteth by, let the first hold his peace. And that touching on that comes into play with precept insertions. You see, like if a brother have a precept, it's through the Spirit revealing something to him, and such, the current speaker will hold his speech, proving that we are of the same tongue. You see. So again, if anything be revealed to another that sitteth by, let the first hold his peace. So if a brother saying doing this lesson, and they say Salakia, I have a precept. When he's done with his speech, then he would hold his peace. Then I would bring out my precept, and if it's savory and it ties into the lesson, it would carry forth. That's showing that you how it go. You are spiritually adding to it. The word eludes me right now. Skillfully adding to the lesson. You see? And that proves that we are of the same tongue, because we speak the same thing. We are of the same doctrine. We have the same mind and the same body. You see? Verse 31. For ye may all prophesy one by one, that all may learn and all may be comforted. How could you be comforted by something you can't understand? Hoyo boshata. Ha 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 baby. Sound like dog friggin' grinding. You see? How you could be comforted by something you can't understand? That real question, the foolishness that don't offer no comfort. You can't say what it means. What the frig does it mean? You see? When inside our group, when I say Abanawa Shaba Shamayam, Hawashinawa Mayan Rai, La'ai, Walam Yam, Babakusha, right? Those of us who inside, our group who constantly hearing the prayer, knows this translation to be, Our Father, which art in heaven, deliver us from evil forever. Please. You see, and that's Hebrew. That's the Hebrew tongue. You see, brothers understand and are comforted thereby by the prayer. Brothers learn the prayer. That's how brothers learn the Shemai. And we are comforted by that. You see, that's a tongue that we understand. That was a tongue that was hidden from us. You see? But they couldn't keep it hidden forever. Right? But our people reject that. But take to the Roko Shanda which they had under, and all other different rhetoric. You see? 1 Corinthians 14 and 32. And the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets. So those of us who can speak this Hebrew and break down these scriptures directly and correctly, we are blessed, and the Most High rules our spirit through wisdom. You see? The Most High rules our spirit through wisdom. Again, well, the Most High is not the author of confusion. Verse 34. Let your women keep silence in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also said the law. And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for women to speak in the church. But there's the loudest ones inside these churches talking about they speaking in tongues. Foolishness. And our people eating it up. You ever wonder why you see more women inside these churches than men? Because it's a wicked friggin' place, and who more wicked than them? But nonetheless, when we go into the word, when we go into speaking in tongues, tongues simply means language. You see? And you only speak in a foreign tongue if there's somebody there to translate. Because if there's no translator, there's no edification. Because how the hell could you learn something if you don't even know what the frig it means? Right? So with that, I give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Akal Kadash. I pray that this lesson was edifying. Shalom and abad b'bod. Shalom Malakim. Shalom.